My campus beauty roommate Simp showed up again. He waited in the rain for 2 hours. But his roommate remained unmoved. The roommate said impatiently, "That poor wretch is here again. So annoying." She glanced at me. "Jiangwan, didn't you say last time that he looked like your idol? Please go talk to him for me." I lowered my head and said softly, They all thought he was a poor student who came from some remote area. But only I know that he's the only son of Jiangqing's richest family, someone who's never been seen in public. In my past life. I took the steamed buns from my roommate's hands. Later, we ended up walking together. I thought we could make it to the end. But a year later, he dropped his disguise, grabbed my chin, and said, "Jiangwan, aren't you ridiculous? Do you really think a girl like you could marry me?" I slapped him hard and went my own way. Later, Mom's life was crushed by the numbers on the payment receipts. I've just realized how heavy the price of that slap really is. In this life, I don't want love. All I want is money. After going downstairs and pulling my collar down, I finally approached Lu Chenzhou. When he saw it was me, he was momentarily stunned. But soon his attention was drawn to the faintly visible image on my chest. His Adam's apple moved slightly as he asked, puzzled, "Who are you?" I smiled and said, "My name is Jiangwan. I'm Susan Shan's roommate." His eyes lit up for a moment. "Was she the one who asked you to get her breakfast?" I shook my head and looked at him carefully. "She said she has no appetite." "How about giving it to me? I like to eat it." That day, after watching me finish my breakfast, he invited me to have lunch as well. In the evening, I took him home and wanted to treat him to hot pot. It was already very late by the time we finished eating hot pot. He stayed behind. The next day, I lay in bed, feeling sore all over. He was very satisfied with my performance last night. After putting on his pants, he took a watch out of his old canvas bag and tossed it onto the bed. "I bought it from a street vendor. It's for you. I recognize it. It's a Patek Philippe. Worth over 200,000. In my past life, I pushed him away as if I'd been burned, considering it an insult. At this moment, I picked it up without hesitation, my fingertips even trembling slightly. "I know that Mom is now sick and needs a lot of money. Thank you," I said, looking up at him with a sincere smile. "I really like it." His body stiffened, as if he hadn't expected me to accept it so calmly. But soon, he chuckled, as if my reaction was once again within his expectations. The next day, when I returned to the dormitory, Susan Shan was applying fake eyelashes in front of the mirror. "Hey, why didn't you come back last night? Who were you with?" I froze for a moment, then ignored it. The other two roommates also shot me curious yet disdainful looks. I know who told them what. It was Susan San. But I still don't want to waste words on them. I've been reborn to change my fate. I'm not arguing with them. Susan San keeps talking non-stop. "Jiangwan, you really aren't going to sleep with that poor student, are you? Don't ruin the reputation of our dormitory." "Exactly," added another roommate, wearing ragged clothes and still trying to chase after girls. "Only someone as foolish as you would be willing to take on the role of a toothless puppy that no one else wants." I went to bed and pulled the curtains closed. The mockery outside became blurred. "They don't understand. That's not trash. It's something that can save my mother's Lifia, my source of money." To my surprise, the next morning, Lu Chenzhou appeared again downstairs at our dormitory. Of course I know he wasn't there to wait for me. He came to deliver breakfast to Susan. Susan Shan lifted a corner of the curtain and sneered. "Look, there he is again. That persistent guy." I sat up abruptly, got dressed, washed up, and rushed downstairs. Lu Chenzhou was still the same as before, holding the steamed buns, waiting for the girl he worshipped. It's so touching to watch, full of deep affection. However, when he saw me, he still raised his eyebrows slightly, though imperceptibly. At that moment, Susan Shan walked over, arm in arm with young Master Guo. Guo Xiao put his arm around Susan's waist and glanced at Lu Chenzhou sideways. "Why have you come here again? Don't you know that Shanshan already has a boyfriend?" Susan San snuggled against him, giggling. "Guo Xiao, ignore him. Let's go quickly. If we're late, there won't be any tables left at the restaurant. Lu Chenzhou stood still, with no expression on his face. However, he clenched his grip on the breakfast in his hands slightly. I walked over quickly. And under the astonished looks of Susan and Guo Xiao, I naturally took the bag from Lu Chenzhou's hands. You must have waited a long time. Next time, no need to get up so early. Sleep in a little more. Then, I turned to Susan and Guo Xiao, waving the steamed buns in my hand. Shan, you've misunderstood. He didn't give it to you. He brought it for me. In the afternoon, I ran into Lu Chenzhou again at the library. I wore a tight-fitting knitted skirt with a neckline that was just right. As I passed by him with a book in my hands, I accidentally knocked the documents out of his hands. Sorry. I hurriedly knelt down to help him pick it up. My long hair fell aside, revealing the shadow on my neck and under my collarbones. He crouched down, his fingertips casually brushing against the back of my hand. But he didn't hurry to pick up the paper. His gaze fell on my collar. Jiang Wan. His voice was a little low. What a coincidence. I looked up and smiled at him. He didn't respond. His lips curled slightly as he touched the faint redness on my collarbone, caused by the heat from the heating system. Here's been dirted. I shrank back slightly, but didn't dodge. My ears burned with embarrassment. Are you free tonight? He took his hand back. There's a nice restaurant. How about we go there together? Yes, I replied quickly, with a hint of excitement in my voice. After that, we started to run into each other on campus more and more frequently. Within a couple of days, a popular post appeared on the campus forum. A female student surnamed Jiang from the Department of Economics and Management specializes in targeting students from poor families. She doesn't go home at night, proof confirmed. Also attached is a blurry photo of Lu Chenzhou and me entering the residential complex. In the dormitory, Susan's laughter was shrill and unpleasant to hear. See, she's inherently worthless. I didn't argue. Next time we meet, I'll be curled up in Lu Chenzhou's arms, staring at my phone screen, with slightly red eyes, sighing softly. What? He leaned in, his breath warm against my skin. I handed over my phone, biting my lip and staying silent. He glanced at it briefly, sneered, then took out his phone and tapped a few times. Boring. He immediately let go and grabbed my chin. Is this what makes you uncomfortable? I shook my head and leaned closer to him. I just don't like the way they speak about you. He rubbed my hair, without saying a word. The next day, the post disappeared. Shortly after, I heard that Guo Xiao's important business deal had fallen through. He was furious and broke up with Susan. I have no time to deal with Susan who's crying in the dormitory. I immediately went to the pawn shop and sold that watch. I got over 200,000 in cash. I urged my mother to go to the hospital for a thorough checkup. The results were as I expected. Kidney problems require immediate surgery and hospitalization. I didn't hesitate to pay the deposit, watching the rapidly decreasing numbers on the screen. I knew I needed to act faster. It's getting cold. I bought a military green coat on Pinduoduo for over 100 yuan. On his birthday, I gave it to him. Looking at that bulky military coat, he froze for a moment. His expression complicated surprise, amusement, and a hint of slight emotion. He was rarely at a loss for words. Don't like it. I fiddled with my fingers. I think you're wearing too little. He suddenly laughed. Not in his usual way. I reached out. My cold fingertips touched the edge of my low-necked sweater. His voice was low. You're wearing so much clothing. How come you don't wear more yourself? I trembled at the touch of his fingertips. He wrapped his arm around me and pulled me into his embrace. The kiss fell, with an irresistible force. When he woke up, he was already fully dressed and had thrown a brand new lady's handbag over to her. Bought from a street vendor. Perfect for storing your miscellaneous items. Thank you. I took it in my arms, looked up at him with a gentle smile, and said, You're so kind to me. He stared at me for a few seconds, then turned and left. As he closed the door, my smile faded as well. I quickly took out my phone to check the price of this handbag. Official website price. 87,000. Over the past week, Lu Chenzhou has come to see me twice more. Every time he woke up, he would casually throw something at me. Sometimes it's a necklace. Sometimes it's a decorative folding fan. It's just street market stuff. You can wear it casually. He always said. But I know that no street vendor sells Tiffany keychains or Bulgari fans covered in diamonds. Whenever I receive these cheap market knockoffs, I always think of the foolish version of myself from my past life. Back then, every time he tried to give it to me, I refused him with a cold face. Later, he dropped his disguise, grabbed my chin, and sneered, "Jiang Wan, aren't you ridiculous? Do you really think a girl like you could marry me?" I slapped him hard and went my own way. Later, when my mother became seriously ill and the exorbitant surgery costs came due, I realized just how ridiculous I had been. My so-called pure love is worthless in the face of reality. I work 3 jobs, day and night. Yet, the money I earn isn't even enough to cover a fraction of my medical expenses. Coming back to my senses, I picked up the necklace, held it up to the light, and smiled with delighted eyes. "Thank you. It's really beautiful. You have great taste." He leaned against the headboard, lit a cigarette, and looked at me through the smoke. "Don't you mind? It's from a street vendor. Everything you've given me, I like." He seemed pleased. He flicked the ash off his cigarette and pulled me into his arms. "Look, in this life, I do everything he asks of me." He thinks I'm sensible and understanding, so he becomes even closer to me. A few days later, Susan-san came to me. "Jiang Wan, what are you so proud of? What do you think Lu Chenzhou is? I saw him with my own eyes yesterday. He was dressed up nicely, dining with a beautiful woman at a Michelin-starred restaurant. He's just a poor, worthless guy who lives off other people's money." I held the tray in my hands and listened quietly. There was no emotion at all in my heart. In fact, I even felt like laughing. Does she think I really care about Lu Chenzhou's love? I stared at her expressionlessly and said calmly, "Shanshan, you've seen wrong. Chenzhou was with me all day yesterday." Susan Shan stared at me as if I were a monster. Her gaze was completely unfamiliar, as though she was meeting me for the first time. You're crazy," she murmured. "You're defending that jerk." I didn't explain any further and just walked past her. "Protecting him? No, I'm just trying to protect my source of money, to cover my mother's surgery costs." A few days later, Susan Shan was arm in arm with another man. It's said that the person in question is a small business owner in the foreign trade industry. His surname is Xiao. He's short and chubby, with a gold chain around his neck. While showing off her new bag in the dormitory, she glanced at me sideways. Some people have a face, but not even the most basic good judgment. They treat trash as treasure. What idiots! I simply lowered my head, flipping through Mom's latest lab test results, trying to figure out how much was still missing. On the weekend, Lu Chenzhou took me to a Sichuan restaurant on the back street of our school, a place we often went to. Just after finishing my meal and about to leave, I ran into Susan and Boss Xiao coming in. As soon as Susan Shan saw us, her face immediately showed exaggerated disgust. "Oh, isn't that Jiang Wan and her poor boyfriend? How can you bear to come here to eat? Did that good-looking guy get money from some rich woman?" I glared at her fiercely, then pulled Lu Chenzhou away. But Boss Xiao blocked our way. His little eyes scanned us back and forth, eventually stopping on my face. He smiled lecherously. "You guys are roommates, right? Give me your phone numbers. I'll take you out for a big meal sometime." Susan's alarm bells went off immediately. She quickly grabbed Boss Xiao's arm. "Why did you invite her? She's a shameless seductress. She's nothing but a cheap woman with no class." Lu Chenzhou's gaze immediately turned cold. Before he could say anything, I retorted first, then pulled him away from that troublesome place. Boss Xiao was still staring at my back and licking his lips. Seeing this, Susan Shan became even angrier and pulled him hard. "What are you staring at? Let's go. Just looking at them makes me lose my appetite." That night, we went back to my place again. After making love, He fell into a deep sleep soon after. I lay beside him, listening to his steady breathing, until I was sure he was sound asleep. I quietly got up. I opened his old canvas bag. In the faint moonlight outside the window, I could see watches and gemstone cufflinks lying inside. Each one was exquisitely crafted and expensive. I recognize one of those Richard Mille watches. They're worth at least 300,000 at the very least. My heart was pounding with excitement, but also with cold, calculating intent. Those were all my mother's surgery costs. What will he give me tomorrow? Maybe next month. I'll be able to gather all the necessary funds. Just then, the screen of his phone, which was lying on the bedside charging, suddenly lit up for a moment. It's a new message. I saw the words Jiangqing Conquest Log. In an instant, all the blood in my body froze. As if possessed, I picked up his phone. The screen lit up when I touched it. A password is required. With trembling hands, I tried to type in his birthday. Unexpectedly, it was unlocked right away. When I opened that unfamiliar app, the top post was titled Records of Prey in Jiangcheng. The most recently updated floor information was posted a day ago. There's no text, just a few photos and a short video. In the photo, it's me, in different situations, from different perspectives. At the bedside, illuminated by soft light, I tilted my head back, creating a delicate curve beneath my collarbone. There was a fresh red mark left by him. In front of the library shelves, I bent over to pick up a book. My knitted skirt tightly hugged the curves of my hips and legs. Each photo is cleverly taken with the nose visible, leaving the face partially hidden. This makes people's imaginations run wild. Obviously, this is a private online forum that requires special login methods to access. The comments below are all in English, mixed with vulgar jokes and numerical ratings. This new girl is pretty hot. Definitely my type. Whenever the Lu heir makes a move, he never misses. How long do you think it'll take before Chenzhou gets bored of this one? I held my phone, trembling all over. It's not coldness, but overwhelming anger and hatred born from complete humiliation. So in his eyes, I'm just a toy that he can manipulate and display at will. Have you had enough to look at? A lazy, teasing voice suddenly spoke behind me. I turned around abruptly. Lu Chenzhou must have woken up sometime already. He was leaning against the headboard, staring at me, in the dim light. His face was filled with condescending mockery. Isn't that the luxury gift I gave you what you really want? Stop acting like an innocent little rabbit. The game between us is over now. My mind went blank for a moment, and a sharp sense of humiliation nearly pierced me. But almost at the same time, I realized even more clearly that I couldn't afford to lose this my source of money. Just as he lifted the covers and prepared to get out of bed, I rushed at him and grabbed his wrist tightly. Wait. He paused, looked down at me with cold, teasing eyes. Lu Chenzhou. I looked up at him, my voice trembling slightly. It's not for those things that I'm doing this. I did it to save my mother. She's sick. Very seriously ill. A lot of money is needed for the surgery. That money means a lot to me. He sneered and shook my hand off. It's pretty well written. I've seen plenty of girls like you who would curse their own relatives just for money. It's not a lie. I jumped out of bed barefoot, stumbled over to the desk, and frantically rummaged through the documents that were buried under my notebook. Medical records, payment receipts, hospital admission notices, and the photos I'd taken of my mother lying in the hospital bed with my phone. I shoved them all into his hands. Look, just take a look. My mom is still waiting in the hospital. I have no idea what to do. Lu Chenzhou lowered his gaze, flipping through those thin yet weighty sheets of paper. Gradually, the playful expression on his face gradually faded, but there wasn't much sympathy in it either. I'm sorry, he said, putting down the documents. His tone was calmly cruel. But I'm not a philanthropist. Even the last glimmer of hope seems to be fading away. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. When I opened them again, my eyes were filled with tears. Yet, I looked at him with a determination that bordered on desperation. I know you're not. My voice grew softer, filled with a broken plea. That money. Those gifts. At first, I did it all just to save my mother. But Lu Chenzhou. I don't know when it started. But I really seem to have fallen in love with you. The air froze. He looked at me, his gaze so sharp it seemed like he could see right through my heart. After several long seconds, he suddenly laughed. That smile carried the cruelty of those who control everything, along with a hint of fresh interest. Like me, he took a step closer, his long fingers gripping my chin and forcing me to look up. Very well, Jiang Wan. I'll give you one more chance. Hope has reignited in my eyes once again. When you're just a plaything in my hands. Someone I can call at will and dismiss whenever I want. Abandon your ridiculous pride and emotions. All that matters is money. He leaned close to my ear, his breath hot, but his words cold. Do you agree? It felt like an invisible hand was gripping my heart tightly, but what came to mind was my mother's haggard face lying in the hospital bed. I know that. For now, I have no better options. After being stunned for 2 seconds, I nodded my head firmly. He released my hand, satisfied, took my bank card number, and made a few adjustments on his phone. The next second, I received a text message from the bank confirming the deposit. A long string of numbers, enough to cover all medical expenses, was clearly visible in my pupils. Tears welled up instantly, blurring the numbers on the screen. Mom is saved. I clenched my phone tightly, letting the scalding tears fall one by one onto the back of my hand. Lu Chenzhou stood right in front of me, looking down at me as I cried. He offered no comfort, nor did he show impatience. He simply began to get dressed in a calm and steady manner. After getting dressed, he casually wore the Richard Mille watch that I had just seen in the canvas bag. Although he was still wearing old clothes, he appeared cold and dignified overall. Then, he walked towards me. I thought he was about to leave, so I instinctively looked up, but he reached out and grabbed my hair tightly, forcing me to lift my face. A stinging sensation spread from my scalp as I was forced to meet his deep gaze. There was only a cold, scrutinizing look in it, as if examining an item that had just been purchased at a high price and needed to be inspected personally. After receiving the money, his voice wasn't loud, but it carried an unmistakable tone of command. One should know how to act accordingly. I didn't struggle at all. In fact, I even lowered myself slowly, going with the force he applied. He looked down at me, his fingers still entwined in my hair, his gaze unclear and mysterious. The next day, I took that money and contacted the best private hospital in Jiangcheng, so that my mother could be transferred there as quickly as possible. Top experts for consultations, the best private rooms, state-of-the-art treatment methods. Money was spent like water, but I didn't bat an eye. Mom lay in the clean and soft hospital bed, holding my hand, looking worried. Wan, how much does this cost? Where did you get the money from? Mom. Don't worry. A relaxed and natural smile appeared on my face. It's just my luck that I was able to get approved for a charity fund meant to help people with rare diseases. They covered all the costs. You just need to focus on getting better. From the moment I agreed to Lu Chenzhou's conditions, I knew I had embarked on a path with no turning back. But I have no regrets. Dignity can be pawned temporarily, but this time, I must firmly hold my fate in my own hands. In the days to come, he regularly transfers money to me, in significant amounts that are sufficient to cover my mother's daily expenses at a top-tier hospital and my own living costs. He also occasionally gives me gifts, ranging from jewelry to clothing. Everything is of high quality, but he came to me purely to vent his feelings. No tenderness, no conversation, not even a single unnecessary glance. The way he looked at me was no different from the way he looked at those items he bought casually. Fresh and useful, that's all. Respect and love. That's too extravagant. It's never been on the list for our deal. Mom's surgery was successful, but she now has a long recovery period ahead. I sighed in relief, but my anxious heart wasn't completely at ease. Not long after, Lu Chenzhou took me to a private party. The event took place at one of Jiangqing's top private clubs. The people there were roughly our age. And they were all either wealthy or from prominent backgrounds. Their eyes carried an air of casual superiority. When they saw me, their gazes were filled with undisguised scrutiny and evaluation. "Oh, Chenzhou, is this your new favorite?" A guy in a floral shirt hugged his date, smiling as he leaned in close. "Your taste seems quite innocent this time." The girl next to him covered her mouth and chuckled softly, her gaze sliding from my face to my body. "It's obvious that they're easy to manipulate. Give them a little incentive, and they'll do whatever you want." I felt extremely uncomfortable under those gazes. So I clung even tighter to Lu Chenzhou, but he showed no expression. He simply put his hand on my shoulder, gave it a gentle tap, and said to those people, "Enough. That's about it." The tone was calm, but it made those people a little more restrained. However, the playful smirk in their eyes remained unchanged. At the party, they drank, played cards, and discussed business matters that ordinary people couldn't understand. I was left aside, like a misplaced ornament. Someone handed me a glass of wine with a bright color. I couldn't refuse. So I took a sip. I choked and started coughing, which caused everyone to laugh. Lu Chenzhou merely took a quick glance from afar and didn't come over. My cheeks feel extremely hot. Half of that's due to the alcohol, and half is because of embarrassment. I pretended to be drunk and staggered over to a large sofa in the corner, then curled up and lay down. I don't know how much time passed. I heard the footsteps of several people approaching, and they sat down beside me. Lu Chenzhou's voice was mixed among them, carrying a hint of lazy drunkenness. "That's enough for now. He's quite obedient after all." It was his voice. "Since it's been able to survive under your care for so long, there must be something special about it. Chenzhou, when will you let us see it too?" It was the guy in the floral shirt. A sneer filled with malice was heard. Lu Chenzhou seemed to laugh softly. The sound wasn't loud, but it pierced my ears like an ice pick. "What's the rush? When I get tired of playing with them, then it will be your turn to experience them." Huge humiliation and fear overwhelmed me in an instant. It turns out that, in the eyes of him and his friends, I was nothing more than something that could be freely transferred or shared with others. "I'm tired of playing around. Let them taste my taste then." These words kept echoing in my mind, with a nauseatingly sticky feel. In my past life, I was trapped in poverty and died due to my proud spirit. In this life, have I pawned away my dignity just so that I can leap from one pit of misery to another even dirtier abyss, only to be discarded, shared, and trampled upon like trash by them in the end? No. I bit my lower lip so hard that I could taste blood. "Lu Chenzhou, think you can treat me as a plaything at your whim? Not a chance. Graduation season has arrived in the blink of an eye." At this moment, something went wrong with Susan. That boss of hers, Zhao, not only gave her fake bags and jewelry, but also stole money from her under the pretext of needing funds for business operations. After that, he disappeared without a trace. Susan Shan lost both her man and her money. She cried and cursed in her dormitory, saying that no man is good at all. Just then, Lu Chenzhou's identity somehow became known to everyone. What was once a poor, unimportant guy has now become the only son of the wealthiest family in Jiangcheng. When Susan Shan heard this news, her expression was absolutely priceless. At first, she was in disbelief. Then, she felt immense regret and jealousy. In the end, all of those emotions turned into furious anger toward me. She rushed at me, pointed at my nose, and scolded, "Jiang Wan, you scheming bitch. You knew all along that he was a wealthy heir, didn't you? You stole him from me. All of this should have belonged to me." I couldn't be bothered to talk to her. I grabbed my graduation documents and got ready to leave, but she wouldn't let me go, her tone suddenly softening again. "Wan, we were classmates after all, and roommates for 4 years. Could you please give him to me? With your background, you're completely unworthy of him. The Lu family won't even acknowledge you. But I'm different. I give it to you." I interrupted her, finding it utterly ridiculous. Susan, do you really think of him as an object that can be given away at will? She choked on my words, her face turning red. Then, she became resentful. Don't get too proud. Do you really think he's interested in you? It's just for fun. I'll go talk to him. He'll definitely choose me. I'm the goddess he once couldn't have. Whatever you want, I said. Then left without another word. Sure enough. It wasn't long before Susan and Lu Chenzhou started having an affair behind everyone's back. I'm not surprised by this. Lu Chenzhou is a scumbag who likes to flirt with women. He wouldn't pass up any woman who comes to him willingly. But that idiot Susan thought she could replace me. LL smug about themselves. Finally, one day, she couldn't hold back any longer and sent me a photo. It's an intimate photo of her and Lu Chenzhou in some dimly lit private room. Next was a voice message from Susan-san. Jiang Wan, if you have any sense, you'll quit on your own. Chenzhou prefers to be with me now. If you keep sticking around, things will only get worse. Looking at the photos, my heart felt calm. And I even felt like laughing. I opened the voice message and replied right away. Susan, please don't do this. I'm already pregnant with Chenzhou's child. After the voice message was sent, it suddenly became quiet on the other end. After a long pause, she replied, do you really think Chenzhou would care? Heh. She's right. Lu Chenzhou wouldn't care at all. It's just a plaything that's gotten pregnant. There are plenty of ways to get rid of it. But I'm not worried at all. Moreover, I'm convinced that sooner or later, he'll come back and marry me because of this child. As days passed by, my belly gradually became rounder. I used the money given by Lu Chenzhou to rent an apartment in a nice neighborhood, where I can take care of my pregnancy in peace. Mom is recovering well. She comes to take care of me from time to time. As for the father of the baby in my womb, I simply say that he's a boyfriend I really care about, who's busy with his career elsewhere. Although Mom had her doubts, seeing that I seemed to be in good health and leading a stable life, she gradually felt relieved. Lu Chenzhou never appeared again. There was no more money or gifts either. Susan would occasionally post updates on her social media showing her spending time with him in fancy places. I'll just pretend I didn't see it. It wasn't until the 5th month of pregnancy, when the pregnancy was clearly visible, that it became apparent. The doorbell rang. I thought it was my mother. When I opened the door, I saw Lu Chenzhou standing outside. He was wearing an expensive custom-made suit, with his hair meticulously groomed. When his gaze fell on my protruding belly, his pupils constricted instantly. Is it really mine? His voice was hoarse as he got straight to the point. I stepped aside to let him in, nodding calmly. Yes, it's been 5 months. Then, he said nothing more and turned to make a phone call. Before long, 2 men who appeared to be doctors, wearing white coats, arrived with portable equipment. They examined me on the spot. It wasn't long before it was confirmed that the child in my womb was indeed his. Lu Chenzhou waved his hand to send everyone away, leaving just the 2 of us in the room. He leaned against the wall, lit a cigarette, took a deep puff, and looked at me through the smoke. What do you want? The child needs a father. I stroked my belly, my voice soft. I need our child to be legally recognized as yours. He extinguished the cigarette butt and said directly, then let's hold the wedding next month. I lowered my eyes and nodded. I expected it, but I didn't think it would happen so soon. After I became pregnant, on one night when he was completely drunk, I secretly arranged for him to be sterilized. In the days that followed, he only felt discomfort in his lower abdomen. Assuming it was a side effect of the alcohol and the sexual activity he'd engaged in, I never imagined that my actions would actually deprive him of his right to reproduce. The wedding took place as scheduled, grand and dreamlike, in front of the wedding officiant. We exchanged vows. Under the spotlight, he put the ring on my finger, bending down to my ear. He whispered in a voice that only the 2 of us could hear. Jiang Wan, in this marriage, I can give you the title of Mrs. Lu and endless wealth. But love, stop dreaming. I looked up at him, with a smile on my face that was just right, a slightly humble and submissive smile. But inside, I was sneering. Love, Lu Chenzhou. Who gives a damn about your cheap and filthy love? What I want is always status, wealth, and all the power that belongs to the Lu family in the future. After marriage, I moved into the Lu family's lakefront villa. Lu Chenzhou kept his word and gave me the status of Mrs. Lu. The credit limit on the supplementary card is astonishing. He also kept his promise. Without love, he rarely went home. He spent his time in various bars and clubs, drinking more and more excessively. Sometimes, I'd be helped back by drivers, reeking of a foul smell, a mixture of cheap perfume and alcohol. I have no time to bother with him. During the day, I started working at Lu's group as a junior assistant. I attended meetings and learned about management principles, studying financial and business cases late into the night. I also enrolled in online courses offered by top business schools, absorbing knowledge with great eagerness. At first, my father-in-law and mother-in-law were somewhat reserved toward me, a daughter-in-law who had risen through the ranks through clever tactics. But as they saw that I was well-behaved, hard-working, and dedicated to both my family and my career, their attitude gradually softened. On the day their son was born, Father and Mother Lu held their precious grandson in their arms, overjoyed to tears. All the resentment they had toward me vanished completely. At my son's first birthday party, they presented me with another, even more luxurious villa, along with a portion of the shares in the Lu group. As a reward, my position is as solid as a rock. After taking over some of the company's responsibilities, the first thing I did was to establish a charitable fund for rare diseases. I contributed a portion of the startup funds, with the rest coming from charitable donations that I arranged through the Lu family's connections. At the fund's launch event, I stood under the bright lights, dressed in a professional and tasteful suit, and calmly explained the purpose behind its establishment. I've witnessed with my own eyes how disease can easily crush a family that isn't wealthy. I hope this fund can serve as a real source of support for families in difficult situations. Applause rang out from the audience. No one knows that, for me, this support was once an insurmountable obstacle, something that required me to pawn my dignity in order to gain a chance at survival. Now, I've built this bridge with my own hands. And what about my legal husband? Lu Chenzhou. He drank even more excessively, quickly degenerating into a worthless person with swollen eyes and a distracted mind. He was nothing like the polished, arrogant young heir he once pretended to be. Susan San still wouldn't give up. Somehow, she found out the address of the villa and came around to cause trouble once. She was in a daze, her face haggard. She screamed Lu Chenzhou's name, claiming that the person he loved was her. At that time, I was holding my son on the terrace, basking in the sun. Hearing this, I simply smiled and said softly to the butler beside me, "It's too noisy. The baby can't sleep properly." The butler nodded in understanding. The next day, Susan Shan completely disappeared from Jiangcheng. There's no need for my dirty hands. The Lu family has its own ways of making those who aren't welcome disappear. By now, my mind is much clearer. Only Lu Chenzhou still bothers me a bit. Finally, he passed away on the eve of his son's 3rd birthday. He suffered from acute alcohol poisoning and died in a VIP booth at some private club. In just one night, Father Lu and Mother Lu appeared much older. Lu's mother patted the back of my hand, tears streaming down her face. Wan. From now on, the Lu family depends on you and your grandson. I lowered my eyelashes and replied gently, "Dad, Mom, don't worry." A month later, I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the top floor of the corporate building, gazing down at the bustling city below. In this life, I finally have the prosperity, freedom, and absolute sense of security that I longed for in my past life. I now had a net worth of tens of billions. The sunlight outside the window was perfect, streaming in unhindered over my body. In this life, I finally have complete control over my own destiny.